Hello, I'm Chris Athanas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech Sport's coming out Tuesday. Picked up that bad boy. Close it up finally. Hopefully. Okay, I'm going to continue on adventure-driven development. We're getting into the section about like how do we implement some of this stuff. What do some of these terms mean? I mean, it's kind of obvious a little bit, but let's just get into it because it's fun. And you know what? These are just adventure-driven development. You know, as much as they had all the manuals and all the stuff for all the AD&D stuff, much as they had all the monster manuals and the players manuals and all this stuff with all the stats and all these words and stuff. These are just guides. These are just guides. You could use Pokemon characters instead of monsters. Why not? I mean, why not? It doesn't have to be that stuff. It's just a structure. This is just a structure. It's just a way of looking around at a problem and framing it in a particular form that, for this particular thing that's courageous endeavor, you gotta kind of make it a little on the fun side and a little bit outside this like corporatized agile TM stuff, which was it was never meant for that. It was meant to try and break up this trying to systematize everything. It's like we got to put a loose structure around some ideas, and then as we go, we'll change them. How's that? That's a and these are all suggestions, right? This is the whole point. Like this is an adventure. You know, I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of these dungeon master people that say they've sketched out this whole big pick campaign for people like in these games, they're just going winging it, which makes it actually a lot more fun. And I found that to be pretty amazing. So people come at this and they think there's some kind of be like, oh, you have to tell us the method that will get us to compete against some entrenched player in the market space that is not going to be easy to dislodge. Or they get a new customer demand that's going to give us the secret formula. It's like, dude, no. This stuff that we're talking about here, this whole like how you conceptualize it and allow smart people, driven people, talented people that have gone up and done all this bullshit and been in these things and still want to play and still want to try and like do something interesting. Okay, yeah, because this is quite a filter. Stuff is quite a filter. I mean, let's be real about it. It's a filter and a half. Okay, so the campaign. Okay, so this is the heroic party. This is your development team. It's cross-functional, whatever you want to call it. There's designers in there, but in the beginning, a lot of times it's just the developers, and they gotta wing it. And you know, using AI tools and stuff like that, you can get a long way. But in the end, it's taste. It's what are we trying to build for who, why? Do we actually need to build it? Can we just dismiss this part and do something else that's gonna more pressing, more painful? So the campaign quest bearer. This is what I call the defines the overall quest. This could be an entrepreneur. This could be some company somewhere. This could be the developer himself. Prioritizes the features. Like what are we trying to do? The loop. What are we going after? What is this prize that we're going after? Like what are we trying to identify? Like is it? It could be as simple as like, hey, we just want to make a better dry cleaning experience for people. How is that possible? You know, how can we do? What's in the way of the customer that they hate, or some other thing? You know, I like the example of dead animal removal. Like when you have a dead animal, you want it out. You just want to call. You want to do the search, dead animal removal, and you want that thing gone. You don't care how it gets there. Like how can we do dead animal removal for people in the quickest, cheapest, easiest way possible for them that makes it feel good about things. Okay, so that's the final customer is the mountain dragon. We're going over this for a bit, and the prize, the horde prize. Let's call it just the prize. Usually, a visionary entrepreneur or some business person identifies this demand in the marketplace, and they see an opportunity that's gone unnoticed. And a lot of times, the developers can that's why it's like have to have like a business person as well as a developer type person that sees how these problems could be, that has the mindset of like, I don't want to just do tickets. I want to actually solve problems for people that A lot of problems are very boring. Sorry, a lot of problems are just dirty jobs. All right, somebody else's dirty job, right? Usually, a visionary entrepreneur sees an opportunity that's going unnoticed. That's that cave opening. He's been up and around in here. You're in it. You're in this. You're in this space, right? You're in some space that's like this, right? And usually involved with one or more of the businesses or the marketing sales side. So they see some vision. They brought this up at an existing business. The business that's impossible. You can't do that, or we can't do that, or you're crazy, or that's dumb, or that's not even that thing, and whatever it is. Like they've been shunned, or it's like, and they could see. Yeah, they can see the way up the mountain. They can see the way the cave entrance. They see the cave entrance. They see the dragon's head poking out. That guy, right? And then the quest lead is usually a technical person. It can be a vision of like Steve Jobs kind of drove a lot of it. He wasn't technical. Now, he wasn't like technical like what was this the other guy? I can't remember the other guy's name. Wozniak, Steve Wozniak, the other Steve. He's genius. That guy's a total genius. So just Jobs being around someone like that, you're gonna pick up a bunch of shit. And they hung out heavy a lot, and for good reason. They kind of fed each other. That kind of relationship where someone's in the business, they understand human needs, like they're very empathetic and kind of a dick a little bit. Sorry, it's just how things happen. I've seen it over and over. We kind of have to be a little bit, kind of a bully a little bit, and but not just. But the thing is, the guys I've seen that do this well are bully about the product, right? Sometimes, but they're just kind of part of their personality. Sorry, it just kind of goes to the territory. Quest lead, so the technical founder, blah, blah, blah. So the quest lead often is not a bully. He's kind of been through these things and is kind of more on this mentoring, developing systems tip. Usually that's the person and seems that and just knows the least amount of code, the better. And then the guy that's gotten to that point is like, we don't want nothing fancy. We don't the straightforward, direct path where we can monitor it and we can test it before it goes into production and not blow up on the weekend when I'm trying to sleep. Yeah, that guy. We want that guy. It's like, okay, the more lines of code, the worse the thing is. Like every line of code is a bug, is a potential bug. So that's the kind of guy. And also, like, to be willing to go on this kind of stuff, it's like after a while, you kind of get burnt from being in these projects, and you kind of lose that thing that gave you the thrill when you're down here doing the personal projects. It's like once you're up in here, these bosses, they take chunks out of your soul, man. So yeah, so for someone who wants to engage and keep going up this thing and not be reckless and goofy and not trying to do a tar pit. Oh yeah, we're just gonna make a market. Yeah, like. Someone's been up there and sees that sees something more, a more refined than the stuff down here. Okay, and the adventurers is the team, self-organizing team. You gotta handpick each people. Now, usually A people only want to be around A people on these types of projects. They'll play with B and C players if they're down here and have to do one of these things. But if they're doing it, they're going for broke type of thing. And there's high risk. Maybe a reward. Who knows? Yeah, they're gonna want to be with other A players. So they're gonna have to be going. Let's go through this filter. This is the way it is, man. This is how it is. There's no way around it. And I also say a maximum of 7. Maximum of 7. Like every person that adds on is another personality that wants to do it their way and stuff like that. So. It's really important that the founding people, the 2 founding people, are kind of aligned and are kind of in this headspace of like, we're trying to get there as quick. We want to get there too, right? We're not trying to do the punch the clock stuff. So, but how we get there, right? How we get there is critical. It's critical to keep going in this epic quest. Like it has to be an epic quest. The sacrifices are too great. It's too much to go after this stuff when you could just easily eat and do well with just hacking little scorpion bug monsters. So the campaign, it was the product battle. Agile, they called this the product battle. Scrum, I don't know. It was all messed up. They used to call it I've heard this called the product backlog, but this is just the campaign. This is all the tasks. It's the epic quest, all broken down into little sessions, and each one is got a task associated with it. And we don't know. We got a whole bunch of tasks, but we don't know which one's going to go in that session. So the list of tasks that we're actually going to do that need to be done, maybe not broken out completely and all subtasks, but all the ones that need to be done, those are the worthy tasks, okay? And they'll be brought into each session and picked at the tavern assembly down here. Right here, that's the planning phase. So as we've been talking about, the mountain and the dragon represent all the difficulties and problems getting up to a place where you can have a vista and possibly see a cave entrance to a dragon opening. And that's the ultimate for doing the adventure-driven development. You could probably do it in here, too. These organizations inside the dev agency, you could probably do it in there. But ultimately, you're going to want to go after the big dog. If you can last that long, right? Because the burnout rate in these industries, especially down here in these dungeon grinds, woof, no wonder it sucks, man. It totally sucks. And if you don't have this, even if you can do it a dungeon grind, you could use this adventure-driven development style and make it a little bit nicer for other people involved. But man, just getting management to get on board with it, it's just they want the Jira. They want the burn down. Check burn down. No. Experience points. Their number go up, not number go down. Number go up. Number go up and to the right. We're getting more and more experience. We're winning battles. We're slaying dragons. We're fighting monsters. Come on now. Okay, so the session, it was the sprint. We just call that the session. So once you get the task list for that session, you get one person. So the worthy task list is a collaboratively created list of tasks for the adventurers that we'll attempt to complete within a session for the epic worthy quest. The epic quest. All right. Worthy tasks. So let's call worthy. So I'm gonna go back and edit this. The tasks have to be worthy. It can't be just bullshit. It has to be something that we're gonna get moving us towards this guy, the end battle. Like whether it's climbing up mountains, whether it's doing tow lines and for tests, so we're not gonna fall down, not gonna break. Maybe put some monitoring in. Maybe put some fail safes, some friendly error messages that humans can read. All that stuff, like that kind of stuff, to get us up the mountain, so we can see the cave opening and then see what are you dealing with. We got a red dragon, we got a gold dragon, we got a silver dragon, we got a blue dragon. Is it breathing fire? Is it smoke? Just smoking? Is it electrical breath? It's all that stuff. All this is crazy. We got all these ideas about what it is. We can name it these things, but that's the time. It's it gives us the thing. It's we're not shocked when this thing becomes an issue, right? It's yes, we expected it to run into some resistance once we identified what we're doing going after weeks. We expect that. We don't have it all planned out. We're not gonna have Indiana Jones doesn't have it all planned out. Okay, we're going on. It's part of the battle, and this thing might be too big for us. It might be. Maybe there's a cousin. Maybe he has a little baby around here we can conquer. I don't know. It's just thinking along these lines. It's opens it up. Then that damn agile process. Everything's got a meaning and a retrospective and poker points. We don't even get to add the point. I don't even get to keep the points. Nope, don't get to keep the points. You're just playing poker for nothing. Okay. Okay, then we have the quest wish list, which used to be called the sprint backlog, which I guess they call it the sprint, the product back, and the sprint backlog. I hate that name for it. It's just the wish list. It's when somebody comes up with something, and we're not going to add it to the task list right away. It's not going to go right in. Okay, put it on the wish list. Okay, we're going to hold. It's just a big bunch of stuff in there anyway. Usually, people just want to know it's tracked, right? People will give you ideas. The customer will give you ideas. Some other developer, you'll have an idea. You just want to track somewhere so you can leave it alone and move on, right? And then when we go back and we'll look through it, if we bring it up with a retrospective, it's like, hey, I came up with this great idea, blah, 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 blah. Can we swap it in? And that's a big part of this process, right? Is we don't know. It's not waterfall. We don't know exactly after this session where we might change some stuff. We might go in a different direction. We might find that we're not going in the right direction. And we want to bail out now and have a goodwill with our investors. Say, okay, we fucked up. We found out there's this other thing out there that's a competitor and they're doing it 6 times faster than ours. And the investor might go, oh, we don't care about that. That's fine. They can have that. We're gonna go in this other. There's this other thing we're going in here, and you didn't understand. It's like, oh, okay, but if you hide it, if you hide the fact that you don't need the cave entrance isn't there or the dragon's gone, then the investor's really gonna get pissed off, right? But if you totally open and honest, a lot of these guys are gonna appreciate that, because if they're getting involved with adventure-driven development and getting involved with going after dragons, better to let them know, because they might have a network of things. Maybe they have another idea that they would like to run, because you guys are so on top of it and being cool and not being dicks about stuff and not trying to scam out the money out of them. It's like, have some honor, guys. Jeez, a lot of this stuff is honor based, right? So you gotta act honorable at all times, at all the times, except against this dragon. Not honorable against the dragon. If you find an opening, you take it. If you get traction on something and it wasn't exactly what you're going for and it looks promising and your investor goes like, no, we need to do this, drop that other stuff and get that into that thing and just make money, okay? And then maybe try the other thing while the thing is making money. There's this. It's just, this is the part of the thing. It's like you don't know what you're gonna find, and a lot of the products that we take for granted that we're just like, oh yeah, that's just how it is. Like Photoshop, for example. I was at Silicon Beach Software when that guy came. What's his name? I can't remember his name right now. The guy that wrote Photoshop, Thomas Knoll or John Knoll. Yeah, the old Knoll brothers. He brought it by and shopped it around and showed it to us. It was this crappy form. It was crap. Everything had to fit in RAM. It was ridiculous. And another UI looked like it did. It was like half-assed. I was like, oh, it was written in Pascal. Bizarre. Anyway, he sold it. And he came into Adobe right after that, and he's super famous, super rich guy. But it was a crazy idea. People shopped it. He had to shop it around. It wasn't just a go game. It was like he was going for the dragon, man. And he got up the mountain like this far, and people were like, okay, I'll take it. And he went all the way. And now it's a term we all use. Okay, all right, here we go. 18 minutes. All right. So adventuring. So I'm going to go a little longer in this video. So this is the planning, building, and getting customer fixed. So we have a tavern assembly. So at the beginning of the session, we have a tavern assembly where we all get together and talk about, well, what are we going to do? And it says, okay, so the campaign flag bearer, the quest hero, the investor guy, or the guy that's the business guy, this kind of sees it. He says, it presents the next chapter, the next piece of the session. And it's like, what do we need to do? This is like I need to get this wording better. So this is the define worthy tasks. Tasks to be done in the next session. Again, this is just a rough draft, right? I'm still working some of these ideas out. I've definitely been involved with these projects. I see what works. I see what doesn't work, and what people hate. And it's like, okay, if a developer or a creative person like hates it and it can be changed, let's change it. Doesn't have to be so. We have to do that. The experts have defined and decided what. There's been no experts on this stuff. This is just ideas. Agile was never proven. None of that stuff was proven. None of it was proven by anyone. It was just some ideas better. It was better than what was there, right? So now we have lots of different ideas. There's just one idea that I think it makes me feel jazzed up inside that I get credit for this stuff that's like courageous, because we used to be, when I was working at these companies, it would be, people look at these developers like, wow, you guys are courageous for doing this. Like, well, you guys are kind of nuts. Like, you guys put in the hours and are just weird tunnels and turns, and we're trying to do this stuff with it no one's seen before and doesn't really quite understand. Yeah, it's that. Okay, so adventurers discuss and estimate the effort required, and this is experience points for each worthy task. And it's kind of an effort based thing, but not really. It could be like, oh, this is gonna suck. This is like an effort slash suck points. How about that? Effort slash suck. Suck. How much is this gonna be? How about how sort of a dirty job is this? Ugh. And that can have points associated to it. So if it's a sucky job and it needs to be done, and somebody needs to do, well, assign them pretty high. If it's just a hard job, it's all this. It's all the same stuff, right? So larger tasks can be broken into smaller subtasks, and larger tasks can be encouraged to give it a monster name. So you can give a task a monster name. You can have an epic part of the thing and have it a code name be one of these monsters, man. Like there's all these different monsters, different dragons. For like the really big ones, you can have smaller ones like a beholder or a little blink dog. You know, for different types of like bugs or issues or just fun design. It just makes it fun, man. That's all it is. That's all we're trying to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more not so. Ticket number 864. Have you done? Are you finished on ticket 743 yet? It's like, yes, that's part of it, but it's more fun if we name it this stuff, right? So another big part of it is there's no t-shirt sizes, no time estimates, and no burn down charts. None of that crap, okay? Experience points up and to the right. We can look back and see how long things took, but why? Here's the whole thing. We know we have a set time period. We're going to go as fast as we need to go, but we also want to make sure what we're doing is solid and makes sense and not rushed. But if we're not making progress, it'll become very apparent. And if we are making progress with this attitude, it's just going to make it a nicer experience to deal with this stuff. Okay. And we have experience points, which are way more fun. So the whole thing we're doing is all these tasks are assigned experience points. 500, 25 points, 50 points, or a bunch. If you had a big task that's worth 1,000 points, you break it up into subtasks of 200 points, 500 points, whatever. So that's the big idea. Is like, and these points are assigned, are earned by the players by solving the task. So when task is completed, the experience points are assigned. Now, there's no automatic system that I know of that does this, Jay, because I'm just making it up. But this is how I think of it. And I was listening to Tim Pool, one of Tim Pool's shows, randomly just listened to it. He's like, yeah, when you have to do stuff that sucks, I just think about it as experience points. This thing's going to be worth 100 points, 75 points. And I think he equated it with money, but it wasn't really clear. He just said, I'm just going to go, this is going to be a sucky thing. So I'm going to put this away. So he played this little game in his head. He didn't tell anybody. I think it was one of the first times on that show is when he talked about it. It's like, but that's how I was already thinking about this stuff anyway. I didn't put a point value on it, but there was a value when I would be given these crappy jobs and stuff to do. I was like, that sucked. I'm like, I don't want to do this, but it's like, oh, I'm going to get 500 points out of it. Oh, hell yeah. The same thing as like the Stack Overflow, your cred score. Same kind of idea, right? The levels and what each one's called, like they had in Dungeons and Dragons, they had this whole thing about different skill levels, experience points levels, and what they have the names and stuff. Like, I mean, if you want to get into all that stuff, totally cool. It'd be kind of fun, actually. But I don't. But this is outside the scope. This is something you guys have to discuss whether you want to do it. I'm just talking about this experience point value system as being a fun addition, right? So when everyone, and the way they're excluded. So the way AP values are assigned is that each member is given a value, gives a value for the task. It's not hidden, not done simultaneously. They say, oh, that's a 25, or that's a 38, or that's a 200, or 150. And after every member is given the value, the highest and lowest numbers are excluded. So if somebody says 10 million, it's like, no, we're not doing 10 million. And if somebody says 0 or 1, and it's like, no, that's too low. So there's those two ranges are excluded, and you're averaged in the middle, whatever that is. So whatever the middle value is, that becomes the experience point value that's assigned. That's just one way to do it. You guys can do it different ways. Maybe the team lead will overrule and whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. Like that can all be discussed. But there's an experience point value that's assigned, and it becomes 0 and infinity, and when it can have floating point values, you can have unlike Dungeons and Dragons, which is pure integers. You can have floating point values. So if you want to do 0.001 points for something, okay, that's fine. So when the task is completed, this is one way to do it. It's a fun way to do it. So 80% of the experience points are assigned to the adventurers who are assigned to the task, who have that worthy task, right? So whoever's assigned that thing, if it's just one person, he gets them all. But if there's two people working on it, if that guy's bugging somebody, and or whatever, those guys will get the 80%, right? And the other 20% will go to the rest of the team members. So everybody on the team, when a worthy goal or a worthy task is completed successfully, everybody gets points, right? So that's a little bit of gives people encouraged, like, hey, I'm going to get 20%, so I'm not losing by helping this guy out. Because I've noticed a lot of developers don't really like to help each other 100% too much. They're just like, what's in it for me? And that's just human things, right? These are human things that we do when we're put under pressure to go fight dragons. You got to give me a reason. You got to give me a share, right? That's like that movie Aliens. I want a full share. I want a full share of this thing. I'm putting my life on risk on the line. I'm going into sleep deprivation, sleep stasis for 1,000 years. I definitely want to be, compensated for such a thing. All right. Back on subject. Okay, so important concepts. Okay, important concepts about experience points. EPs have zero relation that looks anything like time. That's the important thing here. These are not supposed to be time associated at all. There's no relation at all to time. It's just difficulty level. We already know how long things are at this time. We have to have it done by a certain amount of time that's been given to us. We better have something to show that's like close to getting done. And this dragon doesn't just sit around. You can't. It's moving target, right? And we have to realize that, right? So we're not just going to dilly-dally and run out the clock. If we get to a fit, we're going to do some more stuff, right? That's the whole thing. Now, we should take breaks and don't burn ourselves out physically. But it is a lot of fun when you start getting traction on this dragon. You definitely want to kick its ass. That's just how it is. EP values are only for the adventurer's benefit. This is just for the development team, whether it's the designers, whoever is involved with making this thing come to life. These points are only for this meaning for this campaign, for this quest, for this project, for this team, right? It doesn't mean anything outside. Just the same way. And they should never be used to chart time, right? That's the other thing too. So it's like if I think I put an example here where it's like comparing a football score to a basketball score. They're two different games, two different campaigns. So there doesn't. I got 10 billion experience points in my Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It's like nobody cares. It has no meaning. Your DM may be liberal. he may be giving out too many points or not enough points. Who knows? But in that team, for that people that are playing who are in that thing, it has meaning, right? It has meaning. It's meaningful, right? And yes, there is someone who will have more than others. That's just how it goes, man. Some people take on more risk. Some people take on more hassle. That's just how it is, okay? And we accept it. And only one task at a time. It's really important that developers concentrate on one thing. And you can see this. I've got this picture of this weird, I don't know what kind of animal this is, this kind of monster this is, but it's this guy, all kinds of suckers, and he's like wrapping around. It's like, that's what it feels like sometimes when these bugs, we are working, doing a dungeon slog, and there's or you're deep in the code and you've kind of overextended yourselves or and maybe too many abstractions, too many thick code interactions, too much stuff that's all intertwined like this, like they used to do with C++ and old Java. Everything's static things are all linked together. Everybody's touching everything. That's what it'll feel like. But when you're in that situation, you have to memorize. You have to all these moving parts, and you just want to do one thing, is deal with this particular, whatever that thing is you're dealing with, not 100 different things. Okay, so, and if you're stuck, like maybe this dwarf right here, he's stuck, right? He can't get past this thing either, so he's gonna help out this guy deal with this this monster. He's gonna help out, and he may be a little bit of a jerk about it, because so this guy is stuck right now. He's the guy stuck. So you have to help the person that's keeping you stuck, right? So whoever's holding things up, that's now part of your task. That's not part of your worthy task. So you have to improvise and overcome. What can this guy personally do to move it along? Can you do a mock-up? Can you write some questions? Can you get some questions ready? Can you do a visual description? Can you do a hand sketch? Can you do a diagram? Can you somehow get other calls scheduled? What can you do right now to move this along? Because that's now part of your thing. And you can put it in the subtask if you want to track it or whatever, and you put some points on it. You know, the next campfire meetup, you can put some points on it. It's like, hey, this guy's stuck and I want to add some points to him. It's like, okay, fine, that's fair. So that's all the things you can do with that, right? If so, maybe a rude interruption. This guy's probably get a little rude every once in a while. He can get a little rude. Okay, so that's kind of the. You may have to get a little plucky, like you know, that's Steve Jobs was totally about all that stuff. So you know, he's your hero. Okay, so if not possible, you can take another alternate task. One alternate task, but we prefer that you only work on one task at a time. And unblocking as much as you're developed as the adventurer. I'm saying as the adventurer can himself. Like if you have to go sit next to somebody, if you go camp them out, that's kind of how things just. When I was working at these companies, that's how you did it. You go like, if the guy's like stuck or can't figure it out, you go over and work with him on it, talk about it, figure it out, move it forward. Kind of being a little bit annoying, but that's what it takes. That's what it takes. So here's the development phase, heroic pursuit phase. The adventurers work independently and collaboratively on their assigned tasks and share screens. So share screen thing is pretty integral. So one company I worked at did this, and I thought it was great. All you do is you put your screen up. I think I go into it right here. Pass the screen share, right here. So you just put your screen up on a Zoom. We had our Zoom calls, and everyone just share their screen, not their face, not their whatever. They didn't have to show their face, but they showed the screen that they were working on. And if it was two screens, they would show sometimes two, sometimes they'd show one, and you would see what they're working on. And we would do this a couple hours a day, not all day, but during the time we were all together working. Which luckily enough, everyone I've worked with has been near the same time zone. But there was a set period of time when we all worked, and it was super useful because a lot of times we don't really want to talk, or if we're working remote, or even if we're in the office, if we're working different parts of the office, just having that part up, and if we're stuck or waiting for a compiler, we can look at somebody else's screens, what they're doing and working on, and just absorbing it passively. It's a thing. Definitely useful. And then we also have minimal set of meetings, right? And sometimes, so I just like sometimes in a project, you need to have more meetings, like in the beginning, and they have to be productive. You have to have worthy tasks produced out of them. And if you don't know what the worthy tasks are, you need to like do more stuff. Well, that's now your thing that you need to go do. So. Minimal meetings. Well, now with Slack and the Zoom, it's not critical, but having a time period during the day when you can all be available and open and like it's important. And then there's also quiet days where you're not sharing screens, you're not always available, right? Where you're more deep work. So you have deep work days. So you get that. It's important to have for these types of things, periods of time where you need to do deep work, and also to express, I need to do some deep work here, right? And it can't, but there also has to be days where are not allowed to do that. You're gonna have to ease up on that and do the screen sharing thing. And the screen sharing thing is just good in general, just allowing your screen to be shared so people can see what you're working on, other people can see how you do stuff, the tools you use, all that stuff that normally gets kind of shared in an office, but often not, right? So, and then every day or every other day, depending on how you want to do it, it's gonna be at the campfire meetup, and it's just basically the idea of the stand up, but in two phases. I have been at these stand-ups and they go on and on and on and on, and people blabber about all kinds of shit that don't make no sense and don't even want to know about. So there's two phases. So one company I worked at, they figured it out. So you do it in two phases. One is the quick hero report, which is kind of like what you're working on, and if you're having problems or not, and if you need to do more weeds discussion, and it's just about the worthy tasks that you're assigned to, what kind of where it's at and what you're doing with it. Not a lot of detail, but if you do need some detailed questions, then you go into the weeds, right? So after everyone does their quick report, 2 minutes tops. It's not go on about anything else. For any of the other stuff, you can do the screen share, we can chat, whatever, Slack, blah blah. This is fast, right? And then you say, okay, I want to get into the weeds, right? And then at the second part, so anyone that's not involved with the weeds discussion or doesn't care, doesn't want to listen, they don't have to get into the weeds. And this one will go right after stand up, and you're going to just go through and discuss each item. If there's more things that need to be discussed, if there's another weed session that needs to happen, it'll happen right after that weed session is done, however long it takes, right? Because it's usually some issue, something that needs to be taken care of right now. Something that's stopping things happening, right? Now, a lot of times it's not necessary, but sometimes it is. And this is the way to handle it so people don't get burnt out. Listen to people talk about their dog and their weekend and how they went and saw the game. Okay, you can do that in the Slack, do the passive screen share, do it at a different place, but not in this thing. Okay. Man, this could be done every day, every other day. The quick hero report, again, could be done by Slack. I've seen it done that way, but it is nice to have face to face and hear people are talking about. And then also the weeds discussions are useful for people that want to hear how some of these problems are solved. Okay, so that's passive screen share. 1 or 2 per. And then the passive screen share means you just work. And if somebody has a question, they can Slack you or whatever. You might have your microphones on, but usually it's silent. And or you can just mute it and you can just still watch what people are doing. So that's just another way to like increase team cohesion and information sharing. And then we get into the Cupid stuff, which if people don't know about Cupid, it's another way of like, it was a solid design, but this is more like a developmental ideology and kind of like similar to Agile, but it's more like how to treat each other on development teams and how to write code that's in this with this kind of mindset where it's composable. It spells out Cupid. It's an acronym. So it's composable. And then these videos go into it. It's basically habitability. It's like making your code and your environment and everything around it nice to be in for developers, right? So that's why the slow is smooth and smooth is fast thing. This is the idea. Like, we're gonna try and, like, one of the companies I work for, the guy was like, okay, this code, we're trying to make it look like a cathedral in here. This is supposed to kind of like, this is our workspace, this is our work party, and we want to make it as comfortable as far as possible. And the MVP may not be comfortable, but the successive ones with all the monitoring and the load balancing and all that jazz that has to happen, whether it needs to or not, like all the testing, all the happy path testing, all that stuff, that makes it habitable, right? It makes it understandable, like, for everyone that's involved and wants, like, it makes it a nice place to be, right? And a lot of it's just simplifying things and trying to keep it simple, right? That's the big challenge. So composable plays with as well as others. So it's smaller programs, this is more functional style. Unix philosophy does one thing well also. We're talking about simplifying, making things not complicated, not using every language feature. Predictable, it's like uses the idioms of the language. Idioms like uses the domain names of whatever we're working on. We're not trying to do abstractions of factory abstractions. No, we're just gonna do it direct. We're as directly as possible, where we reads like a book, right? Idiomatic, again, inside the language, coding styles, standards, domain based, predictable. It's just so this video goes into it. I recommend those two. Watching those two. Why this is important. We want it to be comfortable, and we want it to be a nice place to be for as a developer. We don't want a bunch of mess, right? I make coding style guides that we all can agree to. I've got one. If you don't get to this point without like trying to put a coding style together, lead mine or a dungeon grind or one of these lava lakes, you go through these products with fake agile, you're gonna want So I got a style guide. You can have everyone can have their own. We can argue about it, we can talk about it, but it's got to have one, right? So we can all looks like it's written by kind of like one person, right? That's the idea. So a lot of that's just making it not complicated, like making our lives easy. Every line is a bug, right? Every line of code is a bug. Okay, some more notes on development. So think about the why before the how. Like why are we writing this? What is this for? And sometimes we gotta build one and throw it away. Okay, build one and throw it away. The rough draft is not usually the best work. And boy, as an Android developer, there's been a lot of junk that's been thrown at us, and it just needs to be thrown away, right? Compose, JetBrains, they guys have been doing a good job with Google, guys. I mean, they got us through it, but rough. Priorities, business needs, which means customer problem solving is what I mean. It's like customer problem solving needs over correctness or perfection or the ideal, right? This is not truly microservices. They don't do it like this. This is, didn't look like they're at the conference that I went to and they sold us the training. Like that. It's like, okay, gotta let some of that go. Like for practical purposes. Practical. Minimize external dependencies. That means don't add libraries just to add them on services. Now, I love Kotlin and I love the Kotlin ecosystem, but there has been some bloat, but it's actually become quite a bit of minimized as JetBrains has cohesified and coagulated and reduced down some of this bloat that's happened. So, of course, there'll be another layer of it, but we're getting at a stage where a lot of things we want to do are kind of standardized now, and not some weird third party dependencies. Even though things are open source, it's like approved, and we've already tested and looked at this in 5 different ways and tried to use it in production. Always remember the human factor. All code is written for humans to read. Code is read 10 times more than it's written. We're writing this for other people, not just for you in the future. Other people. I know it's hard to believe. We're writing this for humans. It really feels like we're doing it in front of a computer, but no. This is all just for people. If the computer won't mind if you're writing an assembly language. It doesn't care. This is for us to like maintain, understand, work with, extend. That's it. Not to be clever. We're not trying the most clever solution. We're trying the one that's easiest to understand, easiest to maintain, easiest to debug, and easiest to extend. That's the critical part that kills companies if you don't get those things right. Not how clever you get in your solution the first time and show your friends on Reddit. Can we remove code? Always be shipping. Like show somebody your stuff, no matter what it is. Like show somebody your stuff. Don't just go off half cocked. Like hopefully show the customers. This is what you kind of in the ballpark. What are you doing? So that's what the all be shipping means. We're always we're ready to show somebody at any point along the way where you're at. What are you doing? Where are you going? And have some kind of way to display that before you even get in there, right? That's the idea. Can we make it simpler and easier to understand? Can we remove code? Is this code solving a real problem or just some future conceptual problem that we might need it in the future? Like, don't do any of that. Unless you need it, don't add it. Don't write it. Don't put it in there. Unless you've already seen that we need it by verifying it, that we're using it. We need to have, so this test code coverage, we need to have run code coverage. How much of this stuff is people actually using? Right? I guess that's analytics, but that's even done poorly, right? It's a bunch of garbage, and we have no idea even what it means, right? Getting that stuff correct. minimize the number of indicators. I know we can use indicators for everything, but we can have a smaller set of KPIs, smaller set of key performance indicators, smaller, so we can actually focus in on those things. And once we're focused on those, let's get rid of those and put some other ones in. I don't add to the list. Take some stuff off, because the cognitive load is, humans can only look at one thing at a time. Okay, as much as we talk about multitasking, it's not a thing. Well proven. That was all pseudoscience to sell courses or something. I don't know what it was, but it's not a thing. Not for doing knowledge work, right? If you're doing the same exact thing over and over again, yeah, you could probably do 2 or 3 at a time. If you're not thinking about it, if you're brushing your teeth, you can probably listen to the music and hum a song, saying, yeah, but that's repetitive, right? We're talking knowledge work, so we're trying new things. You got to kind of like do that one thing like a laser, not a light bulb, laser. Can we use less language features? Do we have to use all that crap? Do we need to use TypeScript loops? No. Language and TypeScript loops? No. In the type definition? No. It's Turing complete. I don't give a shit. We don't need all that crap. That's just confusing. It just makes things more difficult, and most of the time don't need it. Okay? So let's just try and use less language features. Go and see. It's only so many keywords, and they built all this stuff. All right? Can we make it easier to maintain? Can we make it easier to extend? Can we make it easier to onboard a new developer to the team? Yeah, we might lose some adventurers along the way. I know, it's shocking, right? No, this is real, right? Some people are like, I don't want to do this no more. Well, at least could you make it easier for the next person? Installation guides, walkthroughs, video walkthroughs. What is this code for? Why did we put this here? How about a YouTube channel or Twitch channel or whatever? And documenting hey, someone like me talking well, I put this here, this before. Oh, you can ignore this. We don't use this anymore. Or we're going to get rid of that. Don't worry about that. Blah, blah, blah. That stuff. That stuff is so difficult. And developers, they hate saying that shit over and over and over again. So if we can document it once and make sure somebody says available for someone to look at in the future where they can zip through it 2x or use an AI to analyze it, say, is this work? All that stuff's now available, okay? So that's just making it easier for people. That's really for other people, right? That's part of this adventure team. You're on things together, okay? Delay scaling as long as possible. Write it in a way to make it easier to scale. So that means event-driven and decoupled. And now, when we're writing the MVP, maybe we don't do that. Maybe we just do everything's calling directly. Maybe that makes sense. But eventually, for that, once you get the MVP out the door, once you build something that's going to be in production, it's got to be event-driven. It's just got to be. You're gonna get rid of a whole class of problems when you make it decoupled and event-driven. I have videos about how to structure code that is scalable, that is pretty much what you're going to be doing anyway all the time, and it's not super complicated. But you do have to eventually go to an event-driven model. That's just how it is. Some thoughts on testing. A minimal set of end-to-end tests is preferred over many nebulous unit tests that all need to be changed if any code changes. If you have a bunch of just unit tests that are testing the implementation of things and not just the behavior through the interface, we'll just get rid of those tests. It's actually making people not want to change code and be like, ugh. But if I have a full end-to-end test and I've designed my code from the beginning to be end-to-end tested, and before I punch in my, do the PR, do the end-to-end test, it takes 5-7 minutes, whatever. That's better than a bunch of unit tests that I have to go change that really aren't testing. What are they testing now? I mean, that's just my opinion on some of this. So you can have your own opinion. Build end-to-end tested. Build to be end-to-end tested from the start, right? Have some sort of test thing that will go through your system in production, right? Because that's where the problems always happen, right? Eventually, you're going to do that anyway, right? So just having the unit test is not going to cut it. Having a full end-to-end test of your happy path, and maybe somehow happy path is best. And having the system set up that, hey, this is a test message. This is a test inquiry. This is a test customer. And somehow in that thing that says this is a test customer, that you do something special, right? You're not going to go to the production database, or you're going to label it test. So when when you're actually going through and looking, it's like, oh, there's a test message. All right. That's the way your stuff is actually working, right? At least I've seen. And it's always been a problem, right? If we're not allowed to test in production, it becomes a nightmare. Actually, so I don't know why people leave this to the last second, but they do, okay? And this is just things maybe after MVP when we're building the actual product to keep this in mind. During the MVP, I don't really recommend build a lot of tests up for your MVP. So I wouldn't concentrate on it too much. Wait for your do a production version. Okay. Allow testing, so exercise the happy path and major unhappy path. So some of your error conditions should be able to be tested somehow. Minimal test coverage, so just a minimal unit test, just the interface only, right? So just test the interface. Interfaces only. Do not test the implementation, please. And minimal, just don't have. And 100% test coverage is a fantasy as well. Stop trying to do that. Try to do the 100% test of the happy path. How's that? 100% test of the things that will actually break in production somehow, or are dangerous, that we need to know if this goes wrong. We need to make sure it gets caught, right? That stuff. No unnecessary, useless, or redundant tests. 100% test coverage fantasies and production. Every project is different, and some parts of the code are critical to test in all aspects of it. But every piece of test cover code increases the brittle coupling and makes changing code slower and more difficult. Okay, I've seen people that avoid making changes to code. They don't want to do changes to the test. Right? That's a bad reason. Right? We want to make that. We don't want that to be the reason. Right? We want to be able to change this stuff easier. Some more thoughts on software development. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. Anyone says, I have the solution, I have the completed things. Like, no, you don't. There are no solutions, only trade-offs. That's from Thomas Sowell. Microservices are technical debt. So switching away from OP, some things to think about in some of these clips here about how we do things and why. Let's see, I'm at 52 minutes. So I'm going to go, to finish this up, after the session is over, whatever it's a week or 2 weeks or 10 days or 6 days or whatever the hours you say, or we all get together, it's like everyone's done, okay, we're all done together. Okay. We're talking about 7 people, so they should be talking, right? But it's nice to have set schedules, people like that stuff. I like it, kind of like it too. And it gives me an idea of how long I've got to deal with some of this stuff. But if it takes longer, it takes longer, right? We're just trying to do that task in this session. Right? If it takes longer, it takes longer. Some things take longer. Some things don't take as long. We might need to break it up. I don't know. We may need some help on it, right? Maybe too much. Maybe we got in there too deep. Maybe I'm going in there too deep. I need to discuss it. Like, what are you trying to do? No, that shouldn't be that hard, right? Or, oh shit, we forgot about that. Like, there's all that stuff that happens, right? So at the end of the development session, the adventurers showcase their completed work and discuss it in some meaningful way, meaning that we're going to get direct feedback from the customer, so we know what the results are of the session. Now, we should have been doing this the whole time, but sometimes you can only get together with the customer at some particular moment, right? That's sometimes how it is. So, but the more interactions you can get with the customer, the better. All work is encouraged to be shared with the customer as soon as it's ready during the session in order to get feedback. I just said that. Optimal case is having the customer on call, ready to see results as soon as reasonably possible. Like, it's like, oh, I got a new build up. Okay, I'll check it out tonight or whatever. Hopefully doing it in person and, listening to them talk as they go through it. That's the best. And it's a pain in the ass, but it's kind of fun too. It's like you're in it. The campaign quest bear evaluates the completed features. So the investor, the guy that's kind of the business guy, or whoever's got the money, like whoever's kind of put this project together, can look at these completed features, provide feedback if possible. And these could be, so this is kind of where you can do consider success in collecting experience points. So collecting experience points. And let's see. And when things didn't go as well as expected, maybe this is when you're at the next planning session, you're gonna decide whether to take things away, or right there in that meeting right there was like, we're gonna switch away. They're gonna switch them out. We're gonna switch out some task. some worthy task for another worthy task, make a new worthy task, delete some tasks. That's the idea. So we don't know exactly. We might have to drop what we're doing and pick something else up. But I mean, that's just the nature of it. Adventurers conduct a retrospective on the reflective teamwork. That's what we're talking about here. This little test, this loot and damage appraisal at the end of the session. And they identify areas for improvement, like your combat and magic tactics. I need to fix up some of this wording. This is some of the things I'm working on, and could use your help and advice with whether this is like hitting, is this coming very close to reasonable, or this is goofy and forget about it. Experience points are distributed for all the completed tasks, and then we continue to the next quest session. Next epic quest session. Okay, and based on the learnings and the gathered insights, the adventurers refine their approach for the next session. Or we can just keep going as we go. Like, all right, just keep going. And the quest wish list may be updated with new insights and potential adjustments, features, offerings, blah, blah, blah. That's like on the back of the list. Or maybe the next session. Or we're flexible. We're going to keep moving, keep changing if we need to, or we keep going straight. We just go, maybe we know the path already. All right, you just need to keep throwing spears at the dragon's chink in its armor. The adventurers assess the resource needs, we call them supplies for the upcoming session, and communicate them to the flag bearer. It's like, all right, if you need some more money, or need to go hire a specialist, or go find a mercenary, or buy some equipment, or place an ad, or whatever. Like, or if there's something you need to spend money on, okay, you have to go talk to that guy, right? And you better have a good reason for it too. Resource, okay, then adventure continues to the next planning phase, and using information from the session for the quest task list. Okay, so here's some conclusions. And the benefits of this empowered adventuring process is increased ownership. The people, the developers that are working on this thing, and the designers, everybody, they really feel like they own it, because they're the ones driving it forward completely. They're the ones talking to the customers and hearing the feedback and asking questions, things like that. Improve collaboration, because this process fosters this collaboration effort. We're all kind of working towards the same thing and kind of in it together, and we're given a lot of control and a lot of responsibility and a lot of expectations that you're going to continue to figure out how to do this stuff, right? Enhance adaptability. So that's one of the key features as well. Like, as we're going through this, we're able to see and change and move and maneuver, and maybe see new opportunities, or see things that you weren't going to see if you weren't going down these paths, right? And the focus on team dynamics, like limiting the party to 7 adventurers, allows for that communication to be pretty optimal. For max 7, like anything more than that starts to get a little. You better figure something else out. You got to figure a different way of dealing with that. Maybe two teams. They're trying different aspects of this thing, or 2 teams doing the same thing. I don't know. That may be a little ridiculous, but this 7 number seems pretty key. As you get over this, is some of the communication feedback loops get a little overwhelming. Focus on solving customer problems. That means that this is all customer solving. We're trying to solve problems, and we're not trying to solve technical problems. Those are gonna come along no matter what, but we're trying to solve them for the customer to solve his issue. We're not trying to pad resumes. We're trying to get this freaking golden prize here. So transparency is key, like open communication, whether it's good or bad, or whether things are going well or not going well, or open to suggestions of other things, like all that, and being willing to say, okay, things aren't working out. And maybe there's another way we can figure out doing it, like being open to that stuff, and that's being totally okay, and that's kind of expected, right? If we're getting attacked by a bunch of orcs and we're taking on hits from the left flank, we might want to go do something over there and not just take the hits, right? That's the idea. Collective learning. So because of the lot of the sharing that's going on, the screen sharing, and how you're doing direct customer interactions, um, and everyone's kind of doing that and sharing all this information and making plans because for whatever's coming next, we don't really know what's coming next. We have just a little bit of design up, we have an idea where we're going, but like we all have to work together to do this. And sometimes it's just slog. Like we already know where we want to go. It's just this is going to take a while to put together. It's new technology or a new API or there's bugs in it or whatever. It's just we're gonna slog it out as much as we can, right? That's why I like having a like part of the adventuring process can be like this proof of concept, just to go down an adventuring down for a month or two or 6 weeks or a week or 6 weeks, however long the period is, and goes to see what's down there. Is it even possible? Is what we're talking about even a thing yet? Maybe it's a hype. Maybe it's not hype. Maybe there's something down there. Like there's a lot of this AI stuff. There's parts of it that are hype. There's parts of it that actually do work. So like, how do you find that out? Well, you gotta go down. You gotta go down that rabbit hole and see what's down there at the bottom. Is there some gold or some rabbit shit? You got kid. You don't know if you're gonna until you go down there yourself. There's a lot of people to talk about a lot of stuff, and the only one way to know. And that's where you're like, okay, I see something down there, and then you put your bet and your time and your for a worthy task of going down that rabbit hole, right? So it's a lot of it's embracing these challenges and should view obstacles as opportunities. The way the Chinese say problem, the word for problem is the same word for opportunity, right? That's a pretty famous thing. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard it a bunch. But yeah, so obstacles and problems are two sides of the same coin, and a lot of Americans don't really have that. They want this idea of easy success, and that's how people get into these to some of these roles down here. They think they're gonna have it easy. It's like no, that you just gotten started. So those are for people that are a little bit more further along and advanced and like are ready to take on these types of things, which is super scary. But that's where all the action is, right? And that's adventure driven development. That's my first draft and my first run through of this. So I'm gonna leave a link, of course, to the document, and you can view it, and hopefully I'll be able to you can make comments on it. But I don't know, it's the internet, so I might have to turn that off. So if you see it and it's been turned off, I'll let you know. Anyway, I'm Chris Athanas. This is adventure driven development. I hope you let me know what you think. I'll talk to you soon.